Good morning, Emerge. Good morning. I want you to think back for a moment when you started first hearing about media in newspapers. You might have heard, extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it. Back in the 1890s, newspapers particularly started spreading media by way of having callers, if you would, on the street corners, trying to engage more and more readers in whatever newspapers they were selling or whatever movement they were trying to engage people into. Today, we've got something a little bit different. We don't hear those callers on the street corners. You could say we do have hashtag, read all about it. And certainly, it's unnecessary at Emerge to explain what a hashtag is. But the value of a hashtag in comparison to the early days of media is that it consolidates all of the information surrounding a particular cause, story, or information to engage individuals in the particular thing that hashtag is promoting or talking about. And that could be positive news, negative news, or even scandalous news. And certainly I think we would all agree we have a good dose of that in our society today. However, there are other movements that touch people. Using hashtags, we can go viral. And that's one of the great benefits and changes of a hashtag in comparison to our traditional media. And so we're going to do a little bit of a social experiment here, and hopefully some of the young folks here in the audience can help us out, because I know that you'll be familiar with this, and familiarity is one of the things that allows things to go viral. And so let's think for a moment, for all those that have been to a baseball game, you've probably heard this chant before. And let's assume just for a moment that since we're in Miami, we're all Marlins fans. So I'm going to ask you to help me out. And if I said, let's go Marlins, let's go Marlins, come on, let's go Marlins, live like Bella, live like Bella. So you see, by those of you that chose to clap, you made a choice to engage in that particular moment. And right now, here at Emerge on the expo floor, there are some folks in the other areas of the room that heard some clapping and heard some chanting, and they may either be listening now, thank you for coming, or they may be clapping, but their interest has been piqued, and that's one of the benefits that we have with hashtags in comparison to media of the past. This story is about how a hashtag took something of extraordinary tragedy and changed it into what we believe to be extraordinary triumph. Not so much for myself and my family, but perhaps for generations of children and families battling cancer. See, my story may not be that different in comparison to all of yours. I grew up here in Miami, and I'm the baby of my family. And so as the baby of my family, I'm a man that's planned my life many years in advance. Being from a Cuban family here in Miami, I thought I had it all figured out as a very young man, and I knew when I would get married, and I did. And I knew the year that I would have children, and I did. And I knew without equivocation that the woman that I would fall in love with and marry would be Cuban, Catholic, submissive, and a great cook. And that's the first time I learned that God has a sense of humor. Because the woman that I fell in love with, and I'm still very much in love with, was an American Jewish woman who's tough as nails and cannot make a bowl of cereal without instruction. And yet my wife, Shauna, has been a great blessing in my life and the life of many. And in 2002, precisely when I thought I had planned it, we had our first child. It was a little girl named Bella. And like any family, we were filled with joy to have our first child, and in our case, particularly a little girl. But in her early stages of life, Bella was very challenged because she had low oxygen at birth when she was born. And so she was born with developmental delays, and we struggled as a family, but we were very optimistic that we could help Bella attain certain milestones in her development by giving her physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy, and we were extraordinarily busy in that regard. And she made advancements which we were very proud of. But unfortunately, in 2007, something happened that would change our life forever. When she was 4 years old, Bella suddenly became paralyzed overnight. Without any symptoms, without any warning, she, from one morning to the next, could not walk. The cause of this paralysis was an enormous tumor wrapped around her spine. And in addition to that, at 4 years old, Bella was found to have cancer in her jaw, her shoulder, her rib, her hip, her knee, her foot, her left hand, and her brain. And at 4 years of age, our little girl was diagnosed with stage 4, group 4, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, which is a rare and very aggressive childhood cancer. And at the end of this very tragic week, when our little girl suddenly became paralyzed, we sat in front of oncologists and doctors who confirmed a prognosis from all over the world. Bella would never walk again and had a few weeks, perhaps a few months to live. Now, for those of you that are parents in the audience, I can assure you that there is nothing that can prepare you for words such as those. And as challenging as that difficult that scenario was, there was a different plan for Bella. She didn't live a few weeks or a few months. Bella began to show us extraordinary faith and the definition of courage as she began to battle cancer. Bella lived for 6 years. She fought her disease. She regained the ability to walk, run, and jump, and in the process started a movement, starting with her mom and dad. A movement that taught us that we can take tragedy and turn it into triumph if we focus on the fact that we have extraordinary gifts and remarkable people that are purposely put in our life to support us. And it was when Bella was in that extraordinary battle against stage 4 cancer that a little girl who was born with developmental delays, who could barely speak and who in her early days was seemingly so insignificant, began a movement that engaged other people far beyond the clapping we just did, ladies and gentlemen, engaged people from all over the world to believe in something greater than themselves, to believe that they could live like Bella, and most importantly, serve others. And while she battled her disease 6 times in 6 years, it was when we were at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Texas that my wife, for the first time, posted those words online. Bella had just undergone an 18-hour surgery that was truly barbaric. You see, because up until this point, when your child is diagnosed with cancer, in addition to the horror of having to face the potential death of your child, you will be equally disgusted to find out that childhood cancer is the #1 disease killer of children. You would be shocked and sadly alarmed to learn that in the last 30 years, with the exception of lymphoma and leukemia in children, of the other 10 major types of childhood cancers, we have not improved the survivability, unfortunately, of any of those tumor or cancer types. And in addition to that, in the last 26 years, there have only been 3 drugs approved for children battling cancer in comparison to adults. Ladies and gentlemen, it is remarkably and extraordinarily difficult to enter a battle where you are told at the outset that you do not have the tools to win. And yet, Bella fought, she inspired, and she continued to believe in something greater than herself, and people engaged. And so as Bella was recovering in a coma from an 18-hour surgery at MD Anderson Cancer Center, my wife posted online and said, "It's a beautiful Saturday morning in Houston. Bella can't go out and do the things that she would normally do. So you go out and show compassion and wear red and belly laugh and pray for others. You go out and you hashtag live like Bella." And there began a movement where folks began to post online different things they were doing with hashtag live like Bella. And on the night that my daughter passed away and went to heaven, my wife and I joined a club that no one would ever want to be a part of. We held our little girl in her first breath on earth and in her very last. And as difficult as that sounds, and it was precisely at that moment that we learned what a remarkable gift we had been given. Because the night that Bella went to heaven, we were told over and over again that we had to watch the Miami Heat game that night. And we were amazed and surprised to see LeBron James and Dwayne Wade during the NBA Eastern Conference Finals write hashtag live like Bella on their shoes. And from there, ladies and gentlemen, it went viral. And I had never been on Instagram until the day after Bella passed away. And I was amazed and so incredibly humbled to see people from all over the world writing hashtag live like Bella on their shoes. In fact, children from as far as Sri Lanka and every corner of the world that perhaps didn't even understand in the English language what live like Bella meant were writing it on their shoes. But beyond that, people began to take notice. People began to become engaged. People decided to join a movement greater than themselves and help us in the fight against childhood cancer, the #1 disease killer of children. And so incredibly, as that movement started, I remember being at Bella's funeral where I had the privilege of giving the eulogy at her funeral. And people from all over the world watched And I had the audacity to say something that was true 4 years ago when Bella passed away, and it's true at Emerge today. And that is, I believe, is that although we cannot see her, Bella is more alive than she's been in her entire existence. And the proof of that has been in what's happened. Because after that experience, and after the world engaged, and a community came together to live like Bella, and most importantly, to decide to serve others, which is what it meant for Bella, my wife and I felt that we had the obligation, in her memory and for the benefit of others, to start a foundation to fund cancer research, specifically in children, and to assist families wherever they might be with a child battling cancer. And ladies and gentlemen, I am humbled and proud to be here at Emerge, but most importantly to tell you that only 4 years later, today, Live Like Bella operates in 46 states and in 12 countries around the world. Live Like Bella has funded 13 research projects in 4 years. We have funded the first pediatric proton radiation program in South Florida. We have moved federal legislation called the Race for Children Act, so that pharmaceutical companies from now on, and biotech companies, as they develop new drugs for cancer in adults, they must test it against the 12 major types of childhood cancers. That is remarkable advancement. In addition to that, here in the state of Florida, the legislature, along with the governor, passed something called the Live Like Bella Initiative, which is something that no state has ever done. It is truly historic and remarkable, where they took funding from the cigarette tax money and used a portion of that specifically to fund and exclusively childhood cancer research. Ladies and gentlemen, that is outstanding. And if we only get a few more states to do that, then we are truly innovating change in research for children's cancer. And so as you can see, while it is extraordinarily difficult, and I miss my little girl with every fiber of my being, I know that she's here and that she's smiling from heaven, because we will continue with all of your support, with all of those that are online, and all of those that choose to serve others by living like Bella, that we will indeed see the day very soon where childhood cancer is a curable and treatable disease. Ultimately, I learned a lot of things from my little girl. Perhaps one of the greatest things I learned is that it's not the weight of the load that breaks us. It's how we choose to carry it. And few carried it as valiantly as the privilege I had of being Bella's daddy. And so it would be my hope that the next time you see a hashtag that is familiar to you, that engages you and touches you in some particular way, that you, like Bella, can understand that even in the moments of tragedy, they can be turned into triumph if we believe in something greater than ourselves and we look around the people around us and engage the world to support us. It is possible and it is true. So it would be my hope that the next time you face tragedy, or the next time you see something that engages you, that you keep hold to that value. It would be my hope that the next time you're engaged, that you choose to turn tragedy into triumph, and that you choose to live like Bella. Thank you. God bless you and have a good day.